The failures of my generation are the opportunities for yours. There are no greater minds than the ones in this room.
There's a sort of aspirational quality to the Fantastic Four because of the science element, that they're people who actually believe that they can change the world or explore the world by using their brains.
Reed, all he wants to do is build this quantum gate. There's like a quantum gate in every scene.
There are 5 gates. We go from the garage to the science fair to Baxter. Then when it all goes wrong, he then goes to Argentina and he makes a version of the science fair one, but a much more developed version. And then we go to Area 57, which we sort of call the NASA version, which is the high end.
Reed thought he was building a teleportation device in his garage. When he meets Dr. Storm, he tells him that this isn't a teleportation device, that he's cracked interdimensional travel.
In Stanley and Jack Kirby's Fantastic Four, you have 4 characters that get into a rocket and go into space. They encounter cosmic rays, and that transforms them into who we know now as the Fantastic Four. Our version of Fantastic Four is not really that much different in that they do go to another place. That other place is another dimension, as that's sort of one of the big topics in cutting-edge science today, is not just the idea of space exploration, but interdimensional exploration.
I didn't think interdimensionality or multidimensional science was a real thing, and as we dug into it and talked to lots of different scientists, it is the sort of next frontier of theoretical physics and ultimately of real physics.
We were pulling in scientists from all over the place with different specialties to kind of give us an understanding of space and time, to give us an understanding of charged environments, charged particles, how it is the powers might work.
We talked to a lot of different specialists, theoretical physics, to make the language feel real and naturalistic.
Once you get into all these deep layers of physics and chemistry, it's like the depths of the ocean. There's a ton that just has not been explored. People are constantly retracting and building upon theories that they thought were true that, maybe aren't. And so my job as an actor is that you need to sound like you know what you're talking about.
There's a speech in the movie that Dr. Storm gives the board when he's trying to get them to approve the quantum gate.
We need real-world applications.
This has real-world applications. I truly believe that there is
an entirely new universe just beyond our ability to see. Yes, I've read your paper.
Once we get there,
if we get there,
we'll be able to discover new resources, energy sources, which will revitalize our own. This is our chance to learn more about our planet and maybe even save it.
And that speech is largely taken from different research I've done of scientists who are talking about the possibilities of interdimensional travel, of figuring out more about our dimension, our world, by looking at how other worlds and other dimensions have evolved.
Imagine if you can travel to another planet in an instant. That would change everything. I mean, how many years it would take to get to another planet that has a bunch of stuff that we could use to help heal and fix our own planet.
Set design on this thing is really, really good. It's like once we show up, there are all these things that kind of help your reality. And that's beneficial.
There's a rigor in the approach that starts with Josh Trank that is in absolute control over color palette and camera movement and the scope and nature of the production design that gives the movie a very real, almost seductively gloomy underpinning.
So, who else lives here?
Just my mom and stepdad.
They don't care about all this?
They don't understand it.
This is Reed's garage gate. This is the gate that Reed and Ben build in his garage. So it was sort of essential that we literally use all parts that you could find in a junkyard, which we did.
When they're younger, it's a much cruder piece of architecture. There's a lot of wires and chaos, and it's a little hard to understand. We tried to make it a little rougher, a little more uneven and childlike.
I'm just looking for a power converter. I'm building something.
That teleporting thing?
I go into his junkyard to steal parts, and the junkyard's kind of like a family-owned business, chop shop kind of thing.
My favorite set that we filmed on was the one in my garage.
Me too,
because it vibrates, the ceiling's falling with sand or dust, and then sparks are shooting out everywhere. And it's just the coolest thing to see, and it was loud. We actually had to wear earplugs to not kill our ears.
Now! So cool, like when I first saw it, I was just like, wow, who built that thing and how long did that take? 'Cause it was really cool.
Wires everywhere, every corner you look, there's wires. There's all different mechanic machines.
It's sort of the garage. If you grew up in the 80s or the 90s, like this garage is your dream garage. He has a rack of Nintendo 64s, which are used first for like their CPUs and stuff like that. And he's building this teleportation device in his garage, and it actually works and functions.
We did a lot of research on this, and there are actually kids out there doing this kind of stuff. There's one guy, I think he works at NYU, who actually at 13 had made a particle accelerator in his garage.
And then we cut to so many years later, and they're 17 years old, and they're at the science fair.
This is a cymatic matter shuttle. Me and my associate Ben have been working on it every day since 5th grade when we launched the beta version in my garage. And today is our first public demonstration. What does it do? It modulates the frequency of matter from one location to another and back again.
This is a movie that celebrates the possibilities of the world. That some kids can have a science fair project that ends up transforming themselves and transforming the world. The possibility of that, I think one feels when they're a kid.
Ben's joined him, and Ben's been able to help him create this slightly more refined, more developed version of the first garage one.
This is years later where Reed and Ben have really refined the project. There's a laptop computer that goes with it because now they're taking that energy and they're refining it in such a way that they can hopefully get stuff there and back.
In high school, I'm building this thing. I'm like excited to show it. I've finally done it. And then it kind of works, but not really.
The first time that they had some kind of experimentation together, Reed kind of knocked out the power for the entire neighborhood. The science fair at school, you know, stuff blew up and it was a bit crazy.
It's all about transferring energy into waveforms that then open up the spaces between atoms and allow the gate to open. So using all of these, you know, these are jamming energy this way, these are firing it into this section.
Then we go to Baxter Building, and the initial quantum gate with what we call the fly swatters on either side.
The Baxter Institute is kind of like a magnet program, a government-funded think tank in Midtown Manhattan, and it was founded by Dr. Franklin Storm, and this is kind of our version of it, which is, I think, is a lot closer to Millar's version of Baxter than any other version of Baxter if we were to compare it to the comics.
There's a lab here in Baton Rouge that attached to LSU called CAMD, and they are doing all this particle research there. And we shot a section of the movie there. That gave us a lot of detail, a lot of inspiration for the main big set.
All these characters need is a big place to do their work.
When you go into the labs and you see the magic that's being worked on in person, it's incredibly inspiring because you can really see how it's all being made. And I just knew that this movie, if out of any superhero film, needs to have that quality because Fantastic Four is so much about science.
In building this gate, we're trying to keep a basic shape, and that's essentially Reed's formula. He's discovered how this shape works with this particular technology. So we've tried to keep that all the way through the movie, so there's a kind of continuity through the movie. We've tried to keep a lot of the sort of coils and copper and elements like that in order to try and give it that sort of gravitas, really. It's all about power. It's this machine that eats power. We've had a lot of challenges regarding shooting out of continuity, so we've had to destroy it and then rebuild it and then destroy it. So it's been interesting, fun.
This is the one that Reed's working on in Argentina, presumably to basically go back and rectify what has happened. And again, it's just something that years later, Reed's pulling different parts together. It has to have a different level of polish, and yet it all has to look similar to the gates that you see on stage 4 here, which is this, but exploded to an entire soundstage.
The whole Area 57 complex was fun to do because it was just so big.
We tried to keep it with the same visual language, but yet give it the sense of this is 2.0 and this is a darker, more menacing group of people.
Area 57 was an abandoned hospital. We took a lot of research of contamination labs and general experimentation kind of environments, and then augmented that into the direction that we wanted to go. We are now in the basement of Area 57, and we ended up building a lab. We ended up bringing a lot of the component parts from the hospital to here, the doors and all the fixtures and fittings. It helps us tie the two places together for continuity. And we've gone from the garage all the way to this militarized gate.
Made it ugly.
We were just over in the Area 57, the actual lab where we built the gate at. And in between setups, I'm sitting down at some random desk that's there, and I'm just kind of like, you know, being nosy, peeking through, and there's all these instruments that I'm like, I don't know what this is. It looks legit, looks expensive. It's pretty heavy, so they pay attention to everything.
Every single set that I've been on this movie, you know, from the Baxter corridors, or to his dorm room, or to the quantum gate, or wherever it is, there's always a sense of, like, this is a real place. This really exists.
All the sets have been incredible. None of them feel like sets to me, so I genuinely forget that we're in a studio. It really does feel exactly like we're in the buildings that are written. It's really remarkable.